Recently, mental health authorities around the world have recognized a diagnosis called binge eating disorder. Binge eating disorder is basically characterized by repetitive binging, feelings of guilt after you binge, and then binging again. Now, this begs the question, if binge eating disorder is a diagnosis, is food addiction real? That's the question we're going to ask on today's Medical Moment. I'm Dr. Idris.
I'm Dr. Jamil.
And this is today's Medical Moment.
And on today's Medical Moment, we ask the question, is food addiction real?
And let me tell you, food addiction is real. You're looking at two sufferers and two survivors.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you a little story. Between our second and third years of medical school, we had a few months off to study for our boards. And so every night we had a little routine where we would order a pizza, maybe bake a whole batch of cookies,
up all
and eat
night,
them all.
burning the midnight oil.
Burning midnight oil, just not burning any calories.
Yeah.
And so we finally passed our boards, went back, we were on the floor, seeing patients, wearing our white coats, we were lying
feeling good about ourselves, yeah.
We were feeling good until somebody stopped us one day and said, "What in God's name were you guys eating all summer?"
Now at this point I looked at Idris and said, well, he has gotten a little bit portly, a little bit rotund, but that's not polite, sir.
And I said, he's gotten a little bit more portly and a little bit more rotund, but we decided to go home and get on the scale.
And what did we see?
It was not kind.
It was not kind. Help! Help! So, is food addiction real? I think most people have assumed that food addiction is something that people can suffer from. But from an official psychological and psychiatric standpoint, it's not a recognized condition. However, there are a lot of studies now that show that food addiction may be a real entity. And all of these studies surround one hormone, and it's a hormone called ghrelin. Now, ghrelin is a hormone that's produced in the stomach. And basically, for all intents and purposes, ghrelin is what makes you eat. Ghrelin, when it's produced by your stomach, tells your brain to make you feel hungry. And so when ghrelin levels are high in your body, you feel hungry. What do? You eat. So then when you eat, ghrelin causes the nerves in your stomach that normally get stimulated when your stomach gets stretched, and these nerves would tell you, hey, you're full. Ghrelin mutes or blunts those nerves, so now you're eating and getting full, but ghrelin's like, hey, stomach, don't tell the brain that we're full, and so you want to keep on eating. So basically what ghrelin does is it makes you want to eat. And now studies have found that it may be ghrelin and pathological responses to ghrelin that affect people who have this potential diagnosis of a food eating disorder. Now, what was really interesting that was documented in a study that came out not too long ago was the fact that ghrelin stimulates the same parts of the brain, the reward centers in the brain, that are stimulated in people who are addicted to alcohol and to drugs. And so basically people become addicted to alcohol and drugs because when they drink alcohol or they take drugs, parts of their brain that are called reward centers start to go crazy and say, good job, you got what we need, we feel good. It starts to release those dopamines and you just feel great. Well, studies have shown that ghrelin actually works in some people on the same parts of the brain. And so again, is food addiction real? Not an official diagnosis, but you have to start to think it may be. So, if food addiction is a real issue, what the heck can we do about it? Well, thankfully, there are researchers, and I do mean thankfully, there are researchers who are working on ghrelin vaccines. And so basically, the goal of the ghrelin vaccine is to modify the way people's bodies respond to ghrelin. Like I said, ghrelin makes you want to eat. Once you eat, ghrelin makes you think you're not full, keep on eating. And so if you can modify the way somebody's body responds to ghrelin, if they've got a food addiction or potentially a binge eating disorder, you may be able to modify that behavior. Thus far, though, there's one downside, and that downside is this. Ghrelin also plays a role in mood. And so they've been giving mice in the lab this ghrelin vaccine, and sure enough, these fat mice are becoming skinny mice, but these fat mice are also becoming depressed mice. And so there's still some bugs that need to be worked out, some kinks that need to be worked out. So, is food addiction real? Short answer is not an official diagnosis now. Long answer is we all probably know that it's possible to be addicted to food. So, is there hope on the horizon? Yes and no. They're working on a ghrelin vaccine, but right now there are some kinks to work out. Nevertheless, there is hope for people like
You.
us. As always, folks, thanks for tuning in, and this is today's Medical Moment.
And as always, guys, follow us on Twitter at Twin Doctors TV. Follow us on Facebook, Idris and Jamil, twindoctorstv.com. Please go to our website, www.twindoctorstv.com. Leave us your questions, leave us your comments, and we may just include your question or comment on a future show. Stay healthy, guys.